On Sunday the 10th of November, almost 80 people from the community of Gulf Harbour and beyond set out to focus their attention on the back nine of Gulf Harbour Country Club. The focus areas being the mowing of fairways and tees and the areas in between, the landscaping in and around the bunkers, cart paths and the edges, and of course, pest plants and weeds. This time, we all turned up at 9 a.m. on the 12th tee for a briefing. Unlike last weekend, the work was spread over 6 of the holes, and so there was quite a bit of walking involved just to get to the places where the work needed to be undertaken. While some people were hard at it on the 12th, there was a whole team dealing with the very large stand of woolly nightshade on the 17th fairway, which is half a golf course away. Here is Deborah talking about progress being made during the morning.
Yeah, so it's going really well. They are absolutely smashing through the 12th and the 13th. We're getting rid of woolly nightshade and pampas and boneseed, arum lilies, gorse, a whole ton of weeds, and we're just about finished the 12th and the 13th, I reckon, and then we're moving through into the 11th and the 14th. So yeah, going great guns. There's an area at the back of the 12th which needs its own working bee, so we'll do that on another day. Just like there's another area just down through the tunnel by the 2nd. That's another area on its own by the pond. That's another working bee on its own. I think almost none of my team play golf, and so they're in the same position as me. It's like, well, where's the 13th? What's the tee? A fairway? But actually, yeah, they don't care. Like, they're here because of the pest plants, because of the community. And yeah, you know, if you're into golf, cool. But if you're not, it's still a great thing to be doing.
We knew that the team from NZME were going to be coming up to speak with us here on Tuesday, and so we wanted to have the signature hole, number 16, looking as tidy as possible, and so our mowing team made that their focus for the morning. Some of us have recently watched a video where Lydia Ko, our Olympic champion, talked about her favourite golf holes, and seeing that video and looking at what it had become, I think many of us felt quite motivated to do everything we could to make it a playable hole again. We could not magically grow the trees that were there in all their splendour in Lydia's video, but we could do a lot to make up the difference. For those people who know this particular hole well, it has been quite sickening to see how derelict it has become. As with the 6th fairway last weekend, it was a delight to see what can happen when a dedicated team of people on mowers and with a lot of manual effort around those bunkers can achieve. It's worth taking a walk this weekend in between the showers, if you can. It seemed as if everywhere you looked on Sunday there were people there, in amongst the gorse or the boneseed. The pampas were under a full-on attack as Deborah's team enthusiastically identified their presence and very effectively implemented the management programme. We do want to say a huge thank you to Restore Hibiscus and Bays. First of all, without them we would not have had the guidance, leadership and enthusiasm of Deborah to support us. But they also supplied many of the tools we needed and the herbicides to make sure that these pest plants remain managed and under control. Restore Hibiscus and Bays will be able to support us as we move forward and make tools and these herbicides available to any one of us as we each individually look to do our part in managing those pest plants that are growing close to our homes. As Deborah advises, eventually these fast seeding plants will make the hop, skip and jump from outside of our gardens to inside, and then we will have no choice but to deal with them. In particular, some of these plants have been compromising the health of many people who live around the golf course, especially those people whose health is already compromised with respiratory issues. People have come out from their homes as we have been working and pleaded with us to deal with the pampas, growing in abundance just 50 metres away from where they live. They told us that in certain conditions they have to shut all their windows and doors and just stay inside because it affects them so badly. It is clear that the efforts of around 98 people across the 2 days has made a dent in the problem, but there is still so much to do. We are very grateful for the huge support that Restore Hibiscus and Bays have provided to us through these volunteer days in particular. We are very fortunate to be able to draw on this fantastic resource which is available to us. Jaden and his team were as energised as usual. Watching the hours of video that we had to choose from when making this YouTube update, it's hard not to think of the Duracell bunny every time Jaden comes onto the screen. Does he ever actually just walk anywhere? If he brings this kind of energy to voluntary, unpaid work, what does he do when we do landscaping turn up to do a job? It's a scary thought. It seemed that everywhere we looked between holes 12 and 17 there were just so many people. Not once did we see people just standing around. Everyone was hard at it, all through the 3.5 hours. And now it shows. As you know, we have been holding ourselves accountable to a scorecard as we have asked for your financial and physical support in bringing the land of Gulf Harbour Country Club to a place where it is managed, the pest plants are being controlled, the out-of-control growth of grass and weeds across the fairways, tees, bunkers and cart paths can again remind us daily that we live in a cared-for, a beautiful place, and we have arrested the descent into dereliction which the careless non-management of the land has led to. So here is where we started our 3 Men Went to Mow campaign on 22nd of October. We have 4 categories which we are measuring for each fairway. Broadly, they are mowing the playing surfaces of the fairway, landscaping the sand traps around the tees and greens and paths, removing all of the rubbish from the holes and the bins, and finally, the huge task of getting the pest plants and weeds under control. The red dot means that we have not yet started. A green dot means that we think we're at a point where we can now maintain the situation and that is now able to be managed. The orange dot means that we have started, but there is more work to do before we feel we are in a maintaining status. To further give you an idea of what this means, if we take the 2 red dots that are on the pest plants line for fairways 5 and 6, we've expended 60 hours of human effort and moved those 2 dots from red to orange. That probably represents about 20% of the effort it is going to take before we will be happy to turn that dot to green and be confident that the situation is under control and that we can manage it as we move forward. What that means, in other words, is that neither of those dots will be green until another 240 hours of work is undertaken. That is quite sobering. And so, while we have come a long way, there is still plenty of work that needs to be done. It is hugely satisfying to see that of the 72 dots we started with, where 58 of them were red, we hadn't even started on those, and only 6 were green, we now have a scorecard that has just 10 red dots and 49 green dots out of that total of 72. That is absolutely incredible. And we could not have done that without the generosity of this community on the peninsula financially donating so generously to this cause. And clearly we could have not have done this without the almost 100 or so people who have volunteered their time and invested their energy and skill in joining together in what, we hope you agree, has been a thoroughly worthwhile task. 12:30 eventually ticked around and everyone gathered around a superb barbecue catered by Ginny, Shelley, Chris, Debbie and Greg. Our sponsors, Pack and Save, the Coast Clinic and Woolworths in Whangaparoa again stood with us to enable such a feast. And we are very grateful. Again, it was more than just a culinary delight at the end of a hard morning of work. It was a place where many of us connected with people who live in our community for the first time. We actually sat down with each other and talked. We listened to stories and shared life together. We would like to thank the residents of Discovery and Parkview who provided the use of their pavilion on the 11th fairway so that we could enjoy this time together. Our thoughts now turn to what is next. How do we maintain this momentum? It's a good question, and one that we have been thinking of since before we started the whole campaign. We have now set up the Gulf Harbour Community Charitable Trust. That trust has an operating leadership team of 7 people. They have been meeting weekly, but now that we have completed our volunteer days and learned together how to organise and communicate successfully, these will drop back to a couple of times every month, and every second meeting we will be joined by the people who have volunteered for our Patron programme. A patron is someone who has committed themselves to walk at least one golf hole and take note of its condition. If there is rubbish, they will do their best to remove it. If there are pest plants that they can tackle, then they will do so. This will be a day-to-day role. They may find other people around where they live who will join with them in this work. If the work they see as needed becomes more than they can manage on their own, Then they will send a request to the Community Trust team, who will coordinate among our over 100 volunteers to see if we can find extra capacity to help them. Each month, all of those patrons will join with the Community Trust team, and together we will assemble an up-to-date and accurate picture of the health of our environment. And then together we will agree the focus for the next volunteer day. Yes, we will continue to run volunteer days. We will do this once a month for the next 4 months. We're not sure whether we can continue to offer the full-on catered barbecue experience every month, but we will commit to at least one of those in the March volunteer day. So we have a 3-layered approach to maintaining our environment. We may need to do this for a long time. We're ready for that. The energy and commitment from our volunteers is inspiring, but we do want to make this whole approach as sustainable as possible. Our mowing program will be in a maintaining mode after November and December. This means that we will allocate a certain level of resource to match our donation income and assess every month to make sure we're on top of the situation on the playing surfaces of the golf course. Our goal is not to maintain it to a playing standard. We know we cannot do that. But if we focus our mowing on the playing surfaces, i.e. the fairways, tees and greens, then we will keep the situation to a managed level. Our volunteer program will mean 3 hours of focused effort on part of the land area once a month, with as many people who would like to take part. We really do want this to be something where people are free to participate or not. We will not be trying to pressure people into volunteering. Time is precious and not everyone is able to make time available at those times when we organise the work. So please feel free to join in or not. There will be no coercion from us, but, as I am sure you would expect, plenty of communication and encouragement so that you know what is planned and can make your decision one way or the other. Our patron program will play maybe the key role in this whole endeavour. These will be the people day by day on the ground doing what they can to make sure that the area they are curating stays managed and maintained, and if they need help, we will provide the framework of support based on the unbelievable community of volunteers that we now have. Of course, we will need to continue to receive financial support through our 3 Men Went to Mow campaign. You will see that we have not been making a huge mention of this in these videos. It is partly because the response has been terrific so far, and also because we don't want to distract from the very serious fiscal capacity that will be needed for our legal activities in the coming months. Chris mentioned this in the legal update last week, and this will become something we talk about more in upcoming communications. For now, the donations we have received have enabled all that you have seen so far, and we can state very certainly that every single dollar donated to the 3 Men Went to Mow campaign has gone to the mowing effort directly. All of the barbecue food and drink has been provided by sponsors, and any other non-direct expenditure has come out of the pockets of the trust members, not from the donations. We believe that we have enough money from our donations to keep the mowing program running at least until the end of March. We are pretty confident that we will be able to continue a little beyond that, but until we have more data on the rate at which we burn fuel, we cannot be sure. Of course, there is associated maintenance of the mowers to be considered also, but thankfully, aside from the odd air filter, we have completed a couple of 100 mowing hours with reasonably low associated cost in that area. So, our second volunteer day sees us continue the positive trajectory that we started on October the 22nd, and we feel very positive about the resolve and intent and energy in this community to continue to ensure that our environment, the one we live in day to day with this very important green space around us, is maintained so that we don't have to go through this massive task of getting it all under control again. As you can see, there is still so much more to do. Our volunteer days will continue to be 3 focused hours of hard work, and the mowing will continue consistently through the month. The landscaping work will continue to be challenged by the sheer scale of what is in front of us. Thank you again to everyone who has taken part or has donated. We will continue to post occasional reminders of our 3 Men Went to Mow campaign and help to make it as easy as possible to contribute financially to what we are trying to achieve. You will find the small laminated cards with the QR code that you can scan with your phone at Cherry's Cafe, Next Bar and Eatery, Gulf Harbour Food Market, Harbour Liquor and at Gatman Mowers and More. We would like to thank our long-term partners at Gatman Mowers and More. Ash and his team have been a consistent and generous partner for many weeks now. We have a new partner in We Do Landscaping, Jaden and his team have equipped us with most of the tools we have needed to manicure and sometimes to even find the bunkers and paths around the course. Thank you to our barbecue sponsors, which this weekend came from the Coast Clinic in Coast Plaza, Woolworths at Coast Plaza, Cherry Cafe and Pack and Save in Silverdale. All of us are very thankful for your support. And finally, a huge thank you to our friends at Restore Hibiscus and Bays. Deborah has been an inspiring educator, practitioner, team leader and hard worker in the pest, plant and weed endeavours of our programme. She has brought with her all the tools we have needed to make the best use of the time of all of our volunteers. Importantly, she has helped us all understand the importance of managing these noxious weeds and showed us, through example, how straightforward and manageable they can be if we apply ourselves. So thank you, Deborah, and thank you to the organisation that made it possible for you to be an integral part of our programme, Restore Hibiscus and Bays. As we suggested in the last update video, this community has strength, purpose and resilience. We are proving to ourselves that we have the ability to look after the environment that we live in, despite overwhelming odds that would suggest otherwise. Thank you all once again. We have experienced this weekend that while it is great to be able to communicate over social media and give a thumbs up or offer an encouraging comment, absolutely nothing beats meeting up with the people who live around us and have a laugh and working together on a worthwhile endeavour. See you at the next one in December. We will let you know all about it as we schedule the time and place. Sincerely, thank you.